Hello. Oh, there we go. It always kind of clicks on there the last second with the light. Sorry to be a little late here today. It's a busy day of virtual visits and a little bit of in-person stuff today, which is nice to have that balance. And probably my baby that will show up at some point. I don't know if he will during this live, but yeah, at some point today. And it's just a beautiful day here. Little overcast, which is always nice in the desert, and fairly warm, kind of breezy, but overall can't complain at all. So, how is everybody today? Hello, Valerie. If you're new, or even if you aren't, it's always nice if people want to comment and just say that they're here or where they're from, or questions or topics are always welcome. Hey, Madeline, Emma, Jill, yay! I would love some ideas today to blab about for a short time at least. Half an hour or so sounds good to me. Because I don't know. I don't know if I have anything on the front of my brain. I'm sure I can come up with it as we go. I do usually do a card, so why don't we start like that? That always helps the conversation. Oh, this is a different deck today. This is the Sedona deck. I'll show you. Sedona deck. Special to me. A very simple deck. Most likely made by somebody here, of course. So I'll be excited to take this with me on our move out of here and use it to remember not only my time here, but just my time in this office and with the clients here. This is a deck that I had in my car for a while on purpose because I would just randomly bring it into people's houses when I was doing home visits a lot. And if they wanted to pull a card, they could. No pressure. But that's kind of how I am doing it. Thank you. Hello. Hello, Danielle and Ariella. Aw. Well, we do virtual stuff, Ariella. You may know that. I just finished a virtual visit. And occasionally we do kind of on-call stuff for people virtually, but I get it. It's not in person. So that doesn't work for a lot of people. Oh, jaundice. That's a fun one. All right, let's pick a card here from the Sedona deck. What do we need to know today? Let's see. The road runner, which is these birds are all over, of course. Trust and knowledge. So that's fitting, is it not? For a birth-related topic. That's kind of the ultimate dichotomy there, right? Trust and knowledge, the ultimate balance that we strive for in birth work, attending births. Yay! Let me see if the book says anything helpful. Hey, Lauren. Always funny that I can't see people, of course, here. All right, the road runner. The importance of looking where you've been is to remember all the information and wisdom you've gained in order to help you act in the present. This is what creates the database to help you act quickly and instinctively in the moment. So trusting your instincts is kind of the gist. Cool. Well, that's encouraging, isn't it? Knowledge and trust. Trusting your instincts. Using what you've learned to be in your present life. All good stuff. All right, thank you, Sedona deck. Thank you very much. Put you down. Hey, Isabel. Yay, so many fun people here. It's so nice to see so many of you come back week after week, and then some new Faces too. Hello from Spain. That's so great. Oh man, this isn't the best video, is it? It's kind of dark in here. Oh well. Okay, well, where could we start today? I have a new podcast out today. You may have heard it, you may have not. But we are moving to Kentucky, as many of you know. And it's been really fun to share that now more publicly. Definitely, like some people knew. And I was kind of saving the bigger announcement, as you can imagine, until it was totally done because, yeah, it just felt like the right thing to do. But it's been really fun to just, even online, connect with people that live there, in the state itself, somewhere, and then in the specific region where we're going to be, which is, I guess, is considered central, but I don't know, looks pretty south to me. So I don't know, 40 minutes or so from Lexington, which is one of the cities. And then it's pretty close to Tennessee, the Tennessee border, like a couple of hours. So I'm super excited. It feels just like things are opening up. I mean, they really have energetically, but going to this new place feels really good. And we have lived in this area of the country before, so I don't think it'll be a giant surprise to us. I mean, Jason and I, Tallulah, who's our third daughter or third child, she was born. I'm going to see if I can wipe this camera off because it's really bothering me. Hold on. I don't know, maybe a little better. Tallulah was born in Indiana. Egan was born in Chicago. So we've definitely spent some time in the Midwest. And then this is kind of the South-ish. We've also lived in Knoxville. We've lived in Nashville, Tennessee. So it won't be new for Jason or I, but it will be new for the kids. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, you know, even the land will be so different. And I was out yesterday hiking, and here the prickly pear cactus are all in bloom, and they're one of my favorite flowers. They come in bright pink and orange and yellow, and the orange ones are my favorite ones. So I was feeling a little sad just that, you know, I won't be seeing prickly pear anywhere anymore. But I am excited about learning the new plants, or, you know, new to me plants, new plants and trees and wildflowers and all of that, and see what medicine lies there. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, the land is a huge plus, obviously. I think I've shared, and I know many of you feel this way, just the times we're in also seem to be calling out those kind of decisions. So I don't think it's an accident that we're not supposed to stay here anymore. It's really hard to have land in Sedona. I mean, I'm sure some people do if you're extremely wealthy and you have just millions to spend. Yes, you can have land. And the trick would be getting it near water, of course, and that is even more expensive. So having land here was not really something that felt like it was going to happen. And we did try gardening last year. We had some raised garden beds, really hard. So I know people do it, but I have not been able to. And so I'm really looking forward to more expansive green, more fertile land, probably a lot more people around that are good at that and familiar with that and will probably be super helpful. I know the house that we bought, the people had chickens. I think they took their chickens with them, but it's already set up for that. And one of the properties, like one of the neighbors has, a cattle ranch, I think. So we'll have even access to just watching that all happen. I don't know that I am going to have cattle, but yeah, super excited. So we've done some of the farmy kind of stuff before. Here a long time ago, we had goats and stuff, and honestly, it was kind of a disaster. The worst stories of these goats. They would just climb on our cars and eat all the nice plants. So I don't think I'd go that way again. But anyway, we've had kind of a taste of it. And I'd say in a lot of ways, some of it just felt like it wasn't for us. But now we're being given this opportunity. And again, just in a different setting. I think we'll be able to do some of it. At the very least, grow some food. And at the very least, I think I can handle chickens. So having that feels like it'll be really good. And it's time to do more of that and get settled in that way. Me too, Lauren. I am hoping to see you, of course. And yeah, that's what I mean. Like Arizona is beautiful, but it's kind of locked, like landlocked or something. I don't know how to, like it's not, but it feels that way. Maybe because it's so hard to get into Sedona. Like there's no highway that comes here. So people come in, but it's like on these 2-lane roads, hence the horrible traffic because there's not a direct way in or out. So yes, tons of visitors come in. So maybe this makes no sense, but like we haven't gotten a ton of visitors here because I don't know. There's California, of course. But anyway, there's something about the new location in Kentucky where we're just going to have, I don't know, like the states seem just easier to access. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But Indiana, Ohio, they're all right there. In fact, my parents and my sister are in Ohio, which is really fun. So hopefully we'll get to start spending time with them, and then Tennessee. So anyway, yes, Lauren, I want to see you. And there's a lot of people that I've connected with over the years and even know in person, other midwife friends in North Carolina, South Carolina, that will only be, I think, 4 to 5 hours. So I don't know, maybe we'll have a ton of visitors and it'll be really fun. Or maybe a lot of people will decide they want to come that way too, and we'll just create a giant birth community there. And not that there isn't one. I don't even know if there is one. So as I've shared, I'm not looking to, kind of like take over. I really don't know what I'm going into in a birth way. I don't know. I don't know if people are into home birth. I don't know if there's midwives. I don't know. I haven't really looked any of it up. I did my apprenticeship though in the Midwest, in Chicago, in Ohio, in Kentucky, in Indiana. So again, it's not new to me. And that was a very different clientele of people than here, but not bad or good, just different. And I'm actually looking forward to kind of a change. I feel like I've been here long enough to soak up all the idiosyncrasies of people that live in Sedona. And I probably have adopted some of these things myself. So it'll just be a cool challenge to enter into a different culture, essentially, and see how that feels and find our way. So you'll all be kept posted, I'm sure. We're not moving until the end of June. So a couple of weeks here of getting all the ducks in a row, planning, and moving out of this office and our house, and getting there and figuring out just like the first things we want to do with the house and land. And I'm excited about that because we could do stuff even before we got there if we wanted to arrange that. So I'm not there yet. This just happened finally on Friday, so I'm still kind of soaking in those good vibes before I get to work. And today is not the day to get to work on moving. That'll happen tomorrow. So cool. Thanks for listening to that. Nathan and I also have a new podcast out, and we re-recorded a bunch this past week, so we'll be releasing them a little bit at a time over the next couple of weeks. Jaundice. That's such a big topic. Let me see what you said, Emma. Yeah, I mean, for the sake of conversation, I can talk a little bit about jaundice, and I'm sure you all have stories and comments to share because it's just one of those topics that the medical world has gone crazy with. Is very rarely a problem in reality. And that's my experience, of course. I don't work in a NICU. I'm not working with that kind of stuff where jaundice could actually be more serious. So with a preterm baby, for example. But yes, if you wouldn't mind, I would recommend listening to the podcast because I think it's a good one, and it's kind of a old one, old but good, and probably better technical clinical information in there than I'm able to recall at the moment. But the gist is jaundice is normal almost always. When is it not normal? Great question. Before 24 hours or, at 24 hours. Other than that, if it's happening at more of a normal time frame after birth, so 3 to 4 days is pretty typical for when a baby starts to maybe take on kind of a yellow tint. It's pretty normal, and there's tons of information and research out there that it is physiological, meaning that it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen that way because the bilirubin that is produced is protective of the brain, for one thing. I'm sure there's more benefits than that. I'm sure there are benefits that we don't really understand in a scientific way. It's just, this is the way humans were made. However, there's so much confusion about all of it because, and this goes for so many things, birth is so messed with. Birth is so messed with, especially in the hospital, that people have forgotten what physiological birth is. So intervention after intervention has been applied to normal births. So a great example, in a typical hospital birth, maybe there's Pitocin, right? Maybe there are antibiotics. These are all considered normal interventions. And then we get to the end of the day, and this same line of thought equals all babies need vitamin K. Well, that's a whole other topic, but why would they need vitamin K? Aren't babies born with what they need to equip themselves with as a normal newborn? Yes, but birth has been so messed with that if a mom has antibiotics, if she has Pitocin, all of these things, then that very much interferes with the baby's physiological way anyhow. So then intervention becomes intervention becomes intervention. And at the end, whatever the end is, just tack a Band-Aid on it. So vitamin K is a great example of that. So is vitamin K ridiculous for babies that have had interventive births? Probably not. So we're talking about the normal medical model and the interventions and the benefits and risks. But then, we're over here in our little physiological birth world, mostly home birth, and it's like a different language. So something like vitamin K is still a choice, it's still a conversation, but it's not the same conversation because of all of the things that are done differently. So it sounds like, Emma, that perhaps your client had a more medicalized experience, which again, similar, the conversation just gets disjointed because at home, jaundice again is normal at that timeline that I shared, 3 to 4 days. We don't get upset about it. We know how to talk about it. We know how to make sure the baby's nursing really well because isn't it Jack Newman that says, jaundice is a breastfeeding problem. It's not a liver problem in a normal baby, but it's an illustration of the fact that if a baby is getting more jaundiced or more severely jaundiced, that they're probably not nursing well. So again, the Band-Aid would be, let's put Billy lights on this baby rather than, is the baby nursing well? Is the baby able to excrete the bilirubin? Because excreting bilirubin as a newborn is very normal. What else to do with all of the red blood cells that have been broken down? So, you got to back yourself up on the knowledge train to be able to even understand how we got to down here talking about jaundice and what's normal and not. All the way back here, that babies in utero have higher hemoglobin. They have more red blood cells. This is protective. This is the way they exist in the setting they're in, with an umbilical cord, all of the things, right? Without breathing air. So when a baby is born, even a just normal, healthy baby, they're going to have red blood cells that need to go. They don't need them anymore. They've adapted to life just like we have, and their bodies are functioning as a newborn now, not a fetus, and they're going to excrete the red blood cells. When red blood cells get excreted, the bilirubin is produced because that's the breakdown. So just understanding that. And, if you have a client that's like in distress about this situation in a hospital, it might not be the time. But as a matter of prenatal education, educating our clients about a normal postpartum, totally should talk about jaundice, because if I had a penny for every baby that had so many after-birth interventions for what is probably normal jaundice, I'd be rich, because it's just a thing. It's like they don't understand it, right? Because if they did understand it, they would see that it's normal. But again, they do all their interventions. Maybe that baby born in a hospital really isn't excreting as well as he could because his cord was cut and, his liver didn't get all the perfusion that it needed, and he had antibiotics through his mom and blah, blah, blah. So definitely, it can potentially be worse, but not always. I think there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things we definitely don't understand. And then there's blood type, and there's breastfeeding jaundice, and there's like all of these other topics that come in. But essentially, with a normal, healthy baby, if the baby's getting breast milk and nursing well, they should be able to excrete that and not really be bothered by it. So again, normal for a lot of babies, and not all are jaundice, even when they're normal, even when they're born at home, but some babies are. They develop it around day 3 or 4, and you just kind of see it in their eyes. And you may even see, their face, and like just here on their shoulder or up here on their chest kind of has that sun-tanned look, right? And, you can press down on it and you see that they're jaundice, right? So that's considered pretty mild. As that color change of the skin moves down the body, then it's considered to be more severe. But it's really about how they're acting. So nobody wants to have a lethargic baby, a baby that isn't nursing well for whatever reason, isn't getting the fluid and calories they need to excrete the bilirubin. Then the bilirubin makes them sleepy, and it becomes this like hamster wheel of a thing. And again, if a baby is preterm, especially, yes, I agree, that can be dangerous. It can be a hard cycle to break. And perhaps those are the rare times when, help is needed. But again, at home with normal full-term babies, it's just not warranted unless the baby isn't acting well and isn't nursing well. And, the parents are worried or upset or something. But if you allow the medical world to take over the normal jaundice scenario, they freak out a lot. And, I don't know. I don't know exactly why. Like, I did a research project on this a long time ago, so I'm having to think back to what I learned there. But jaundice on its own, again, when it's not a sign of some pathological disease, which it very rarely is in newborns, right? But as adults, yeah, jaundice is bad. When jaundice is just sort of run-of-the-mill jaundice, what are the risks? I don't know, go look them up, but there really aren't any, especially if we consider that it is protective of the brain. But I think it's gotten confused over time with worst case scenario, which is typical of the medical world at times. So worst case scenario is brain damage. And that is, I believe the term is kernicterus, right? Am I saying it right? Kernicterus? Yeah, that's jaundice gone horribly wrong, and a baby that is very sick. That is very, very rare. And when I did this research project many years ago, I remember I contacted some doctor that specialized in that actually. And he was really cool to just email with. And he was very reasonable. He was like, this is not a normal thing. This is not your normal jaundice baby. These are babies that are sick. And most of the time they've had, um, you know, really intense birth experiences, like super preterm, for example, or I don't even know. This was his specialty. It isn't mine. So I don't remember all of the things that he cited. But in other words, we have jaundice, and then we have, the super serious variation of a pathological disease at the other end. And somehow they get all thrown together. So I think I'll leave it there, Emma, but that's the gist. It's pretty rare to have a super sick baby, but it's like they can't figure it out until they do all the things and poke all the heels, and they start to see the number coming down in a way that makes them feel good. Meanwhile, the mom is completely stressed out, right? Probably not nursing well, and that's also contributing. So it's a great prenatal topic, and I would really urge people to do that. Send their clients the podcast, or do your own teaching so that they're not thrown off by this, if possible, and they can have some information about it before they get in, because it can be really hard to get out of in the hospital system. Yeah. So Emma, I'm not there with you. I don't know the whole story, obviously, but that sounds just really normal. It just sounds like the typical kind of freak out. There are all kinds of like natural-ish things to allegedly help a baby process bilirubin, but I'm not suggesting them necessarily. Like, I don't know why we really need to mess with a natural process. But if a parent is upset about it, even at home, there's things to do to help, sort of, kind of like geranium essential oil comes to mind. So, you got to be careful with babies though, because they're so sensitive and oils are so strong. But even just like a drop on each foot and giving a little foot massage, really, if the baby just starts pooping more, it'll probably take care of it. So probiotics, things like that. And there's all kinds of other things too that the mom can do if people feel like it's more of a dire, situation. But of course, if it was truly dire, you wouldn't be home, most likely. Geranium essential oil, yeah, like the pure stuff. I don't use garbage, especially on babies. And the parents really have to like be into it. It's super strong. I don't like those kind of smells in my postpartum. So I had a client actually teach me that though years ago, because she had her, I want to say fourth baby, but it was her first home birth. And I think the jaundice in her baby was more of a blood type incompatibility, but the baby was not sick. She was a totally healthy baby, but she did stay yellow longer than what we're taught. So a couple of weeks, which is also breastfeeding jaundice. So long story short, this was a long time ago. It made me nervous. I think the baby was still yellowish at like 4 weeks, 5 weeks. But the mom was like, everything's fine. This baby is totally normal. And she was the one that said geranium oil helps the liver process bilirubin. And she wasn't worried. And the baby eventually did, become a normal color, and all was well. And that kid's probably like 13 now. So, trust moms too. But a lot of moms, if it's their first baby, they really don't know. And they just get taken along on this roller coaster ride of heel pricks and numbers and all of this stuff. So having solid information is great. And again, you could reference the podcast for more solid numbers and all of that. And there's probably a PDF transcription of that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's all a judgment call. But if somebody's already in that system and they're kind of in the thick of it, it's very hard to get out of. So that's more geranium oil, and other such tools are more for at home if parents are becoming worried. And of course, there's sunlight, getting them out there to process that. You could even do like a gentle liver massage. So your liver is, upper right hand quadrant. just really gentle with some oil on the baby. The parents can do that. Just reflexology on the feet. Like there's so many ways to just support the system if parents feel like they need to do that. Okay, enough about that. Ariella, we do have a podcast on vitamin K. We do. So check the archives always. It's indiebirth.org/podcast archives. And you'll find everything we've ever done podcast wise there in categories. So yes. Yeah. And what I said in that one, but probably some things to think about. Yeah, any kind of massage. I mean, the idea is that the liver is the one to process the bilirubin. And, can we help optimum liver function? And again, it's really a judgment call. In a normal, healthy baby, why do you have to do that? Right? But again, a baby that's already processing antibiotics and all Pitocin and whatnot, yeah, their liver could be needing some support. So totally a parent call there. But really, jaundice, I think, in the end, and I'll close this here, is just traumatizing. The risk to the baby in normal situations is super, super low, and it's just this way of controlling or like telling the parents what's going on with their baby and telling them they can't leave until. It's just a whole lot of nonsense most of the time. I've never ever seen it be a problem ever in all of these years with babies born at home. So slightly different scenario, but anyway. Controlled pushing and prolapse. What do I have to say about controlled pushing? You mean like coached pushing? Coached pushing, like someone telling you how to push, Danielle? I saw, let's see, Isabel's comment on Lotus birth. Yeah, Lotus birth. I don't have a lot of people that choose that, but it's always an option when we talk about what to do with the placenta and plans in advance. Some people do cord burning, all of the things, right? Lotus birth, if you don't know, is just where the placenta is left attached to the baby, and it separates when it's time. And that is usually days after birth. So I've had a couple people do it over the years. You have to pack the placenta with herbs and salt so that it can not rot, right there in front of you, kind of keep it fresh, preserve it. And usually you have a little bag or a bowl. And so a couple people have done that. And then I've also had people who wanted to do that. That was their plan. And then they just took it as far as they wanted to take it. So, the cord starts to really get dry and brittle. And I can think of a couple people that they just hit their limit. It wasn't about anyone else telling them what to do. The mom, I think, was just like, oh, we're done here. Like, I don't think we have a need to watch this separate. I think we've had a partial Lotus birth, and I think that feels right for me and this baby, and we're going to burn it now or cut it. So there's a spectrum, I think, from, full Lotus birth to kind of like the amount of time you're keeping it attached. You can keep the placenta attached for really as many hours after birth as feels comfortable to you. And, if you're going to do it for longer than 5 hours, probably 4 or 5, 6 hours, then you might want to think about preserving with whatever. And so you have to be prepared with that. But some people just love it. The spiritual connection between the baby and the placenta is a huge plus for people that choose that. And I totally get that. I've never done a Lotus birth. I actually did plan one with my 4th baby, but then ironically or not, he was airlifted in a helicopter. So I didn't get that opportunity. And ever since then, for me, it just felt like I leave it attached for until I don't even need to clamp the cord at the belly button because there's no circulation at all going on, and just cut it. And that's felt right for us, but totally support whatever people want to do. Controlled pushing and prolapse. I really can't say, Danielle, because I don't work with a lot of people that are told when and how to push. So I think it is an interesting question. And I know that's probably what people would theorize, right? That if you're pushing like crazy, not with your body, that maybe your body won't react very kindly to that. I think that's possible. But, funny, with my last birth, with Rumi's birth, I'm sure you all know the story, but I was pushing for hours. And it wasn't coached pushing, it wasn't directed pushing, but it was dysfunctional pushing for my body. And I remember having that thought, and I think I've shared that, like, I was pushing for so long and so hard, and I didn't even care what happened to my body. I remember thinking, I'm going to totally destroy myself. Like, I'm not going to have a butthole anymore, and all of these thoughts, because it just felt so awful. And I'm totally fine. So I don't know. I really don't know. But certainly it's an opportunity to educate women about what coached pushing is. And I don't think that's false to pose that as a potential risk, because you really do want to follow your body's lead, ideally. Like, there are situations where, well, even in mine, I was following my body's lead, but it was not functional. It was not, it was just messed up. It was my body misinterpreting the feeling of my baby needing to come out, but he wasn't ready to come out. So that's a strange thing our bodies do. And I can't quite explain why we were made this way. It doesn't happen that often, though. So in general, follow your body's lead. If you don't and you're disconnected, then the chance of harming yourself is greater, probably. But I'm sure there's better information out there as far as like statistics or, the people that really work in more of the world of prolapse, and who comes to them. Do they see a lot of women who have prolapse and that's their story? They said they were coach pushed and told to do it, and everybody was counting to 10 and screaming at them. Yeah, that's so cool, Lauren. I have to hear that story in person sometime. Yeah, and I think that's a great testament to the fact that our bodies are really resilient. They really, really are. So with coach pushing, it really makes me think that maybe it's just more that position than anything, because I'm sure, Lauren, you too, that's a long time. And for me too, but I wasn't flat on my back, and I was trying my best to like contort myself into any imaginable position that felt like I was supposed to do that, So maybe it's more about that, following your body and listening to the pace and how long and how hard to push, rather than someone telling you. But I think that's, sort of the general gist of a lot of those sorts of questions. My midwife was coaching me to not push. Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, that's like the opposite side of the coin in a way, right? Like, follow your body. But sometimes people have other ideas about how we should do it and how tearing is caused. I don't see a whole lot of tears, really. In 12 years of practicing on my own, I've had 2 people go in for sutures. And one of those was more cosmetic, meaning that it wasn't like nothing terrible was going to happen if she didn't, but she chose to, which I totally respect. And then the other one really did need to go for sutures. And, they were both people that followed their own lead on when and how to push. So certainly things do happen even when we follow our bodies, but not as much, not as commonly as when we're told to stop or start, or when we have other hands in there directing the process or flexing the baby's head. Any of these things can just screw with our body's direction. So you think of All right, I got it. You didn't push for 9 hours. I was like, I missed that part of the story that I read, but hey, maybe I didn't read it right. Cool, I get it now. 9 hours without putting herbs on the placenta. Yeah, I don't know the set number. I can think of a birth a couple of years ago where um, they just kind of forgot to like detach the placenta, and we were there for a good amount of time, but we had left, and they were going to cord burn. And then I remember her texting me saying like, "Oh, we like fell asleep, and the placenta's been out like overnight. Do you think I shouldn't consume it? What do you think?" And I erred on the side of like caution, because I was like, there would be nothing worse to me than getting, food poisoning essentially from your placenta after birth. So my opinion was 12 hours, I'd probably not. But she did. She did consume it and she was totally fine. So I don't know the number. I think there's a lot of leeway there. But, in my mind, it's like meat. It is meat, right? So if you're going to leave meat out on your counter, you decide. You decide how long you're comfortable with not preserving it. Cool. Well, that was a fun-filled chat about all kinds of seemingly unrelated things that somehow come together. I'm so grateful to you all for being here and for suggesting them so I can just blab straight for 40 minutes and not think too much about it. Yeah, so thanks for being here. I'm going to cut this one a tiny bit short. Got a fun in-person woman coming, so I'm going to get ready for her, and I'll see you all here next week. All right, everybody, lots of love from Sedona. And the excess questions here, let's do, I don't know, maybe next time, or you can email me and I'll try and help there. All right, lots of love, everybody. Bye.